Hey, what's going on here? It's MegaMan TCG here with another video. I know it's been a minute, so sorry about that. It's been a very hectic schedule, but hey, we're back on track now, and I believe we were going to do a SkullMan deck feature back in October, so picking up where I left off. We're just going to jump right into it. If it's your first time here, you're coming back, would appreciate a subscribe, and obviously if you could like the video, that'd be great. All that good stuff. But yeah, let's just jump into it. We're doing a SkullMan deck feature today. Really cool Navi. He comes out in the third set, which is Grave, and he has a really cool effect. Let's look at it really quickly. It's whenever you blast, you may place your resource in play in your power gauge. So really cool. That's going to be his main offense for this deck. You're going to see how that's really the only way we're doing damage, and how we're going to be manipulating our resource setup so that we can get more high hits like fives. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. The one thing that does kind of suck about him is that he has that one defense, so we are going to be taking a lot of hits throughout the turns. But we're going to be punching back to kind of compensate for it. But it does create that dynamic where you can't just like sit around and wait for the perfect turn. Like, you do have to be hitting consistently because you're taking hits consistently. So that's just kind of baked into the cake. So that's our superstar. We'll start with the resources and work our way towards events and then the battle chips. So we're going to look at the main like resources, which are his yellows. So we've got a lot of his emblem cards, and the reason being is we want to take advantage of Miu, the NetOp for SkullMan. So Miu, we're playing 4 of these. Really cool card. It does have 0, which stinks, not gonna lie. You have to get to turn 3 to play her, but the second she's on the board, every time you play a SkullMan card, you get to like take a resource from your discard pile and place it in your power gauge. So as you can see, I think it's kind of straightforward, right? So we're going to just be taking a lot of resources with the Destiny of 5, placing him in the power gauge, and then using his effect to blast. And obviously, if we have resources on our board that are 4s and 5s, we can just use SkullMan's effect. You know, we hit for 5, and then we place another 4 or 5 so that we can hit again next turn. So that's kind of how the dynamic's going to be working for most of this deck. So yeah, Miu is very important. We want to get her on the board as quickly as possible, and that's why we're playing 4 of her, because that's really kind of like the whole point of SkullMan, is to just manipulate your power gauge as much as possible and hit for 5s as often as possible. So yeah, we are playing 4 of her. We're also going to be playing 4 Watch Out. So again, 0, which stinks, but you don't need any power gauge, so you can play this card as quickly as possible. And very, very straightforward effect, really. You just power up. So really cool with Miu, right? If you have Miu on board, you drop this, you get to power up from your resource. You take something from your discard pile and you place it in your power gauge, right? Because of Miu. And then Watch Out, you can just spend it and then get another card into your power gauge. So love that when it happens. And yeah, just a really great card and one of like the better resources that SkullMan has. I do think, I mean, I like all of his resources, but this is like the one that I always want to like drop. So yeah, we definitely want to play 4 of those, and it is a yellow. So just to kind of reiterate, or maybe emphasize, maybe I didn't, we do want to get as many yellows on board as quickly as possible. So we do want to have, you know, turn 1, turn 2, we just want to try to stack up our board as many yellows as possible. We have a lot of events, and actually it's more so the battle chips where, yeah, events and battle chips where we just need a lot of yellows to play them. So the sooner we can get our board completely yellow, the sooner we can play those cards. And this just kind of checks off all the right boxes. It's a yellow, and you just don't need a power gauge, so you can drop it the second you draw it. So that's why it kind of fits with that strategy. We are also playing Focus, so very similar to Watch Out. It just lets us power up a lot faster. Watch Out and cards like Focus just let us get to turn 2, turn 3, and turn 4 in some cases a lot faster, so that we can drop the Miu sooner and some of our other cool cards, whether that be resources or battle chips. So yeah, pretty standard. One of the best cards in the game, honestly. You might find this being played in any deck, not necessarily yellow, but because it's yellow, it's all the more it's kind of a no-brainer. So yeah, it's in there for that reason. Won't spend too much time on that. I think it speaks for itself, and you probably ad nauseum heard me like talk about this in every other deck profile, because I do tend to feature this card. We are also playing Cyber Warrior, so this is a 4 Destiny, which is great. No power gauge, also great, again with the strategy we're going for. And it does give us a bit of control here, where it's burn 2 power to destroy an opponent's resource. So really cool. If it's on the board, it kind of keeps your opponent nervous because they have to think twice about what they're playing because you can just nuke it. But also, we can use SkullMan to place the Cyber Warrior into our power gauge and get that punch for 4, right? So really cool card, really makes sense. Again, great yellow card in general, and again, just makes sense for the context we're in. Next up is a card you probably haven't seen in any of my deck profiles yet, so I will explain it a little bit. So this is called No More Practice. It's a 3 Destiny, 2 Power Gauge requirement. You have to discard a yellow card, and what that allows you to do is blast an additional time. So I really like this card because SkullMan's effect is a blast effect, and I want to take advantage of that as much as possible. And let's say really the idea here is that you're going to be doing this if you want to go for an extra punch, right? So it's cool that he gets to blast, and then you can use the effect to place another card into your power gauge. And then, normally you'd have to wait another turn to be able to blast the card you just slid in. But with this, we can just take that, we can just speed things up and hit him a second time on that same turn, right? So yeah, that's really it. It's a turn 2. So again, it's a yellow that we can drop fairly early in the game. And it just kind of leans into his effect, which is blast oriented. So I like it. It just gives us that. And sometimes you want to just go for the push. You want to win the game. So this is just another card that got us to be a little more aggressive and use his blast ability just a second time versus once, right? So yeah, that's why we're playing 4 of those. Pretty cool card. There are other cards that you can add into the deck that let you blast additional times, but I'm really only playing 1. I don't necessarily need to blast 3 times a turn. I think if you could just do it twice every now and then, that's better. So we also have 4 Smackdowns. You've probably seen this card a number of times in my deck profiles for obvious reasons. It's really good. It does have that 5 Destiny, which is what we're looking for. Got to get to turn 3, but that's okay because it is just a brutal card. You discard 2 cards as part of the cost, but you can just nuke 2 of your opponent's resources. So really powerful. Just get rid of anything that's kind of getting in the way that your opponent might have, and just, again, solid yellow, and just gives us that control element so that we can kind of get the board to a place where we can play our combo and be confident in winning the game. So yeah, definitely playing 4 of those for that reason. We are also playing Meteor, which is a virus card, which I don't think I featured in any deck profiles yet. Maybe I have, but in case it's your first time and it has been a while, let me go over what those are exactly. So viruses are resources just like the cards you see here, but as the rules go for resources, typically you can only, the rule for resources, you can only have 1 resource of that name on the board. So you can't have 2 Miyus, you can't have 3 Watch Out, you can only have 1 Miyu and 1 Watch Out on your side of the board, right? Viruses are the exception to that rule. You can have as many of these resources on the board because it's a virus, right? So it's kind of playing on the theme that you see in the video games where every time you encounter a Meteor, there's usually 3 of them. So that's kind of the idea they were going for. And it is cool. And really the point of these guys is to give us the yellow requirements, or the color requirements, I should say. There are red viruses, there are blue and green. But for us, it's the Meteor is going to give us those yellow requirements that we sometimes would have a hard time getting to because sometimes you just need to draw it. The power of Meteor or any virus is that when you drop 1, you can go to your deck and get every other copy of that Meteor and play it on the board. So you draw 1 Meteor, you're turn 4, you drop it, you can just boom, just like that. If you have 1 of them in your hand, you could just drop them. Otherwise, you could fish them out of your deck. Now, the only thing that sucks is that if we have at 1 def, so we are getting hit every turn, you may start milling the Meteors. That's why we're playing 4, just so that we up the odds of us like when we do finally drop it, we are at least getting a second one at the very least. Ideally, you can get 3. You'd have to be really lucky to get 4 because, again, the odds are you are going to lose it because you're taking hits every turn. But that's why we're playing 4, just to make sure we can get to it sooner, and when we do drop it, we can get as many of them as possible. Because yeah, it really is just for this. That's really why we're playing it. We just want to fill up the board with as many yellows. Although it does have a pretty cool effect. All the viruses do, and in this one, it's lose 3 energy to burn an opponent's power. So another control card for us to use to kind of keep the opponent in check, right? We could just keep getting rid of the power gauge if we want to. If we don't want them to necessarily advance to a turn 2 or a turn 3, this will let us do it. But also, it is a 4 Destiny, so we can just use SkullMan to like place it into our power gauge and then punch for 4. So really cool in that respect. There is another virus. There are other yellow viruses that you can play. So don't feel like you have to go with Meteor. There is the the Magtech, and then there's the Spiky. I don't know if I love Spiky because you have to get to turn 5, but Magtech isn't bad. But Magtech just kind of, yeah, that one gives you a card from your discard pile into your power gauge. That's fine. I mean, you can experiment and see which one you like better. For me, it was Meteor, so that's why I'm featuring it in the deck. But those viruses do exist, and I do encourage you to like experiment and see what you like better. So that's it for our yellow resources. We'll look at some of the other colors we're running. So we are playing the other 2 emblem cards that are resources for SkullMan. So there's 2 Mysticals and 2 Helping Out. We'll start with Helping Out. It's a turn 3. It has 5 Destiny, which is great for Miyu. And it's a burn of power to cancel a battle chip. So if your opponent's playing like a battle chip where they're trying to hit you for a lot of damage, we can just like stop that. But it's also just, it keeps the opponent in check. If this is on board, they're gonna have to think twice about playing a battle chip because you can just stop it. So really cool in that sense. And again, with SkullMan's ability, which is, you know, whenever you blast, you could take a resource and place it in your power gauge. We could send a Helping Out into our power gauge to get another 5 for next turn to blast with. Then we got Mystical. This is if this is a turn 4, you have to get the power gauge 4 to play it. It's got 5 as well, which is great. And when you spend it, your opponent cannot place events and battle trips until the end of next turn. So this one is a reactive card, right? If they play the battle chip, you can cancel, but this is more like proactive. So idea is like if you start your turn and you want to go ham, you want to spend this right away because you get priority, right? It's your turn, you get the first move. So you spend this and that just closes out any events or battle chips that your opponent can play for a turn. Really the only option they're going to have is to spend resources. So this is really like a card you play on your turn when you're getting ready to go like crazy. Otherwise, it's a card that you can like kind of play on their turn. If you feel like they're going to start going crazy, you could just spend it and just kind of lock them out of spending any battle chips or events. So I am kind of going for a split here. There's no room to have play sets of both. So I like both. I didn't necessarily just play a Helping Out or Mystical. So rather than having a play set of one, I'm going for a split 50-50 where I get a bit of both worlds. So yeah, that was kind of thinking. It's just, yeah, if you can find a way to make room, by all means, but we want to have as many yellows as possible. That's key. And we want to keep our blues to a minimum. So for that reason, I only wanted 4 blues and I went for this kind of split. So just to kind of shed light on that a little bit. Next up, we also have, you know, these guys. You probably see them in all my deck profiles because they are that good. So gender differences, you lose 2 energy to take a card from your discard pile into hand. So we are taking hits, a lot of hits because of his 1 def. So our discard pile is slowly going to become our toolbox, and we just want to be able to access whatever card is in there as easily as possible. So yeah, that's what that's for. And then of course we also have Woodman, which basically does the same thing. This is a turn 4, and there's no losing 2 energy as part of the cost. You just take any card from your discard pile into hand. So same idea. We'll play 3. Again, we want these cards, but we don't want it overriding the ratio of yellows because you're going to see why in a couple of seconds actually. So the main reason really is because we're playing Method for Well-Being. This is an event. It's possibly my favorite yellow event. You've probably seen this in other deck profiles. It is a brutal card. It's a 5 Destiny, no power gauge requirement. You do need 4 yellows, which again is kind of a struggle, but we do have the Mentor and we have a nice spread here that makes it easy for us to get to 4 yellow. We also have our gender differences of Woodman, which basically are our wild cards or jokers, and they let us get to whatever piece of the puzzle we're missing so that we can land with Method for Well. So Method for Well-Being, if it's your first time checking it out, is you power up until your power gauge is full, and then you burn all of your opponent's power. So really brutal. Just for context, the way it would work is you're usually like hitting them, you're blasting a lot, and then what you want to do is you want to play this to get your power gauge back full, and then you're also wiping their power gauge. So that's really setting them back and it's setting you up. And usually when you play this, you're usually going to win the game. If you play 2, and that has happened, I have been in situations where I've landed like 2 or 3 of them, you basically win the game. There is no coming back from that. Your opponent is going to get demoralized. So I love it. That's why I like playing, and I like building decks around being able to like spam it as much as possible. And yeah, that's why we're going to be playing 4. Really, we have a lot of cards where we're trying to get as many yellows as possible on the board as quickly as possible so that we can drop the Method for Well-Being and be in a nice place where we're just blasting and keeping our opponent in check, and they're not necessarily able to do anything. Next up, we are playing another SkullMan card. This is an event called Eerie Blast. It's got a 5 Destiny, no power gauge requirement. You do need 2 emblem cards, and it does have a really cool effect, but I just want to just caveat, we're not really going to be caring about it too much, and I'll explain in a couple of seconds why. So the effect, just for your own curiosity, is you reveal the cards in your power gauge. If their total Destiny is greater than 15, then the opponent places his or her hand into their power gauge. Really cool effect, right? A lot of people see this and they're like, oh wow, I'm gonna build a whole deck around this, right? So they start stacking up high Destinies, you know, and it can be tough because a lot of the built-in cards for SkullMan are zeros, right? But people will build decks around this whole effect. But that's not what we're here for. We actually don't care about this at all. The main reason we're using this is because of Mew. We just want to be in a situation where Mew's on board, and then when we draw this and drop it, Mew activates and we get a resource that we can put in our discard our power gauge. If it happens to land, great, but that's not what we're looking for. We're not really that interested in it. It's just a nice to have. So I do want to emphasize that this is really just an excuse for us to use to get another Mew happening more than anything. We're not really that interested in the effect itself. We definitely do not have a great layout for Destiny numbers, but again, it can happen. I'm just letting you know that the strategy for today's deck is not really interested in this, so don't get too caught up on it. We're really just using it as an excuse to spam Mew. So that's why we're playing 4. That's really the only reason behind it. We are going to be playing 4 technical difficulties. Classic, staple, and yellow. 4 Destiny gray, 2 yellow, no power gauge requirement, and it just destroys a resource. So get rid of anything on your opponent's side of the board, anything that's getting in the way. Just, pretty straightforward, pretty awesome. Always a card I try to include in my yellow decks. Next, and last but not least, we have our battle chips. So yeah, you guessed it, Boys Bomb 3. It's a yellow deck. We're playing Boys Bomb 3. Arguably the best battle chip in the game, to the point where people keep going back and forth on whether or not we should ban it. I don't think we should ban it, but I do play it a lot, so maybe I'm biased. But yeah, just 5 Destiny, great. 3 yellow, no problem for us. You have to get to turn 4, but again, it's really not an issue for us. And it is, we're up until now, we haven't had any real damage card other than SkullMan's Blast. So this is really our win condition and our biggest swing for damage. It's lose 2 energy and you make your net Navi +3 for each card in your power gauge. So yeah, easy 12-15 off their life, and because the cost is lose 2 energy, that's negligible really. We have gender differences in Woodmans to help us fish the copy back so that we can do it again next turn, and usually when you play it more than once or twice, you win the game, right? So definitely a no-brainer, and one of our essentially our win con for the deck. We're also playing the 4 energy bombs. So SkullMan has 1 def, which really sucks, but energy bomb makes it such that we can kind of use that to our advantage. So it's a 5 Destiny, 3 yellow, no power gauge requirement, and then when you lose energy during battle, you place the lost cards first in your power gauge until it's full. So I love it. You've probably seen these in my other yellow decks. The idea is that we try to get to 3 yellows as quickly as possible, so that when the inevitable time comes for the opponent to go to their battle and hit us for damage, we just drop the energy bomb. We turn that damage into power gauge cards, which gets us to turn 3, turn 4, maybe even turn 5 a lot sooner. And now we can drop our Mews, now we can start doing Boys Bomb, all that crazy stuff, as soon as we get 3 yellows on board and we energy bomb them on an attack. So I'm playing 4, usually I go for 3, but I did, I want to just, I think 4 is good because sometimes you don't draw it fast. You don't necessarily want to get this late in the game. You want to get this as early as possible. So yeah, you can experiment. If you don't necessarily like 4, you could swap it out for another Woodman. But 4 made sense. It just kind of worked out better for me, and that's why I'm going with that for the deck profile today. And that's pretty much it. That's all I got for you in terms of the SkullMan deck. It's a really solid build. I love it. It's a lot more consistent than the yellow-blue mix that you usually see, or it's like a lot of people go for initially building the yellow-blue deck because they want to just get that Eerie blast, but this is a yellow-focused, blast-focused, Boys Bomb 3-focused one, and just works a lot better in my opinion. So I highly recommend it. This is my definitive version of how I would run a SkullMan deck, and I hope it's inspired you on how to build yours. If you have any questions or any thoughts from today's deck profile, please leave them in the comments. I'll gladly address them. If there's any deck profiles you'd like for me to cover or any kind of video for this game that I haven't done yet that you'd like to see, please leave that in the comment as well. If it's something I can put together for you, I will. And that's pretty much all I got for you today. Of course, as always, I want to thank you for watching. If you don't mind subscribing to the channel, liking the video, even turning your notifications on, all that stuff, it's really helpful in your way of supporting the channel and letting me know you appreciate the videos and you'd like to see me do more. That's all I got for you today. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care for now. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.